Okay, so I'm going to go over these instructions for how to do the postcard assignment. The first thing you're going to want to do is go find an image of wherever it is that you live. In Delaware here, if I hop over to Google Images, I've already got a search started here where I've got Newark, Delaware typed in. I've set my usage rights to Creative Commons or licenses, and I set my image size to large. That way I get something nice and big. I don't know. Where's something I haven't used yet? Here's some view of Main Street. It's on Wikimedia Commons. That's a pretty safe bet for a good image. Then I'm going to go and download this guy. I want the full resolution image because why not? Might as well start with something real high quality. Makes my life easier. And I can already see exactly what I'm going to go and fix about this image. So I'm going to save this image as, right, if I'm trying to be the best example, I can always put that in my FTD folder for Photoshop so I know where it is instead of throwing everything in my downloads folder. And when I go over to Photoshop, to create a nice white background like this, I'm going to have to go up to File, New. I'm going to need to type in some custom dimensions here. I want this to be in inches, and I want that to be 5 inches wide by 3.5 inches tall. I need that to be set at least 300 pixels per inch. That gets me a high resolution image that I can send to a printer later on if I so desire. I'm going to say create. Now, to bring in that image I just saved, I'm going to go to File, Place Embedded, and then I'm going to go and grab that image. And then when I drag this, I'm going to fill my canvas so I don't have any white space. And there we go. Composition's pretty good. But there's a couple things in here that already I see and I look at and I go, I don't want that in my image. I don't want this street to be all messed up. I also don't want this weird guy just standing there. Sorry, weird guy. That's probably somebody's relative. I'm going to go in there and first off, I'm going to grab this tool called the Spot Healing Brush tool. It's going to ask me if I want to rasterize this image. We just say, OK. Now, this is a great tool for fixing small mistakes. I don't have to do anything. I can just go in and paint over things that I want to remove from the image. And generally, Photoshop does a pretty good job of figuring out what is the imperfection, what is the desired part. You know, I can go in and probably even try to remove some of these unseemly cracks in the road. Right? So you can see it's not too bad. Might as well get rid of this oil stain. Look at that. Photoshop kind of does all that stuff magically, right? So I can just kind of, you know, finesse that till I get what it is I'm looking for. Pretty good. So that's how we can quickly remove imperfections. I'll probably get rid of that one because it just looks funky at this point. Same with that guy. Why is there just one triangle in the road? Now, if I try to go and do something larger, like this gentleman here, and get rid of him, let's see what Photoshop does. I predict he's going to need a little love to fit in with the background. Well, you know, every year Photoshop gets better, so that almost worked. If you're not looking too close, it kind of got rid of him. But let's see how we can kind of perfect this image just a little bit. Especially with these rails here and whatever's going on with this fake extra bench it just tried to put in there. I'm going to grab the clone stamp tool. What clone stamp does is, let's go look at Photoshop's preview. I select a part of an image with option. That loads my paintbrush and then it allows me to paint whatever is relative to that initial starting location somewhere else in the image. So in this example here from Photoshop, they copy those cherries and paint them somewhere else. So I'm going to click on that. I want to steal this fence post, so I'm going to grab Option, click where I want to steal some fence post, And then notice my brush is now loaded up with that other fence post, and I can just kind of come in here and paint that down. If I want, I can even make this a little bit harder so that I don't have, you know, a soft edge there. I just get a nice crisp edge there. Okay, not too shabby. Now, where this starts to get weird, right, is that Photoshop has tried to take parts of this bench, and we don't want that. I'm going to press Option, again, to steal some of this pavement down here. I can just come in and paint in new pavement, paint in this side of the sidewalk thing. And there may be evidence of my handiwork, but it's not so bad. It passes. So right, as soon as I get parts of this, you know, looking more like an image, I'm going to show you how I'm going to cover that up here. Because you're right, you look really close at this part of the image, it's pretty obvious that it's been photoshopped, but if we zoom out and we're not really looking over there, right, it's harder to tell what's been done. So I'm going to cover that up some more with a second element. If you go over to the project file or the project page at the bottom, I've got a link to this Delaware flag. I just want to download that. With that image downloaded, again, I'm going to go to File, Place Embedded, grab that downloaded flag, and then when that flag is in there, I can just drag that and, you know, fill my page, press Enter. Now at this point, it's just a matter of changing my blending mode until I find something I like. Right? Blending mode is down here in the Layers panel. By default, it says normal, but we want to combine these two layers to create some sort of harmony. I like the way darker color looks. Your mileage may vary. Play around, see what you find most aesthetically pleasing. On this one, I'm going to just do something subtle, a nice darker color, which means it always chooses the color of whatever is darkest there. So since the sky is white, basically, it picks the blue. Since these buildings are white, again, it takes the yellow from the flag. Okay, only one step left. I'm going to add in some text, and notice now we're not really focusing on these parts of the image that I've done so much Photoshop work on. It's always good to hide your work. I'm going to use the text tool here and give this, you know, some information. This is Newark, Delaware. Got to spell Delaware right, that'd be important. You know, over here on the properties panel, we can adjust lots of things. We can adjust the size. We can even drag that back and forth. We can adjust the distance between lines. We can have it set to automatic, and then it'll scale with whatever size we want, or we can automatically, you know, come in there, drag things a little closer together. We can change our font here. That's just the name of the font. I don't know. For this one, I'll go with Bodoni Egyptian Pro. Right? So there's my classic Newark, Delaware postcard. I'm just going to center that up using the Smart Guides. One last thing to make this sort of complete, I'm just going to select my text again. I need to go to my Layers panel. I'm going to right-click there and go to Blending Options. And in the Layer Style window that pops up, you can just play around with some settings until you get the desired effect you want, right? There's all kinds of ways to add effects to this layer. I tend to go with drop shadows, great for text, right? Just sort of separates that out from the background. You can adjust the distance of that shadow, the angle of that shadow, right? I might look for where the shadows are at in the image, try to make it match some. I can adjust how much the shadow is spreading, the size of the shadow, all those good things. I can even go in, add a subtle little line around my text by going into that stroke setting and make it huge. I don't want it to be overwhelming. Just a nice subtle stroke that looks good to me. All right, that's looking like a postcard. So at this point, I just want to go in and go to File, Save As, and I'm going to save it on my computer. As always, I want to throw that in my FDD folder, and I'm going to put that in Photoshop. I'm going to call this my postcard. It's the second one I've done today. I'm going to call it Postcard 2. Say okie dokie. And then I need a version I can turn in on Schoology, so I'm going to go to File, Export, Quick Export as PNG. Export that guy again. That gets me a PNG file that is good for the web. I can come over to Schoology now, select that file there in the comments section. If I go to my FTD folder, look, there she be, a nice PNG, good for uploading. Schoology requires a comment, so I can always just write my postcard, post it, and that's the assignment, folks. That's how you upload your completed postcard assignment. Hope you learned something.